Singapore is, to use a word its leaders favor, an exceptional place. The world's only fully functioning city-state, a truly global hub for commerce, finance, shipping and travel, and the only one among the world's richest countries never to have changed its ruling party. At a May Day rally this year, its Prime Minister, Lee Hsien Loong, asserted that, "To survive, you have to be exceptional." Singapore, it is sometimes joked, is Asia-lite, at the geographical heart of the continent, but without the chaos, the dirt, the undrinkable tap water, and the gridlocked traffic. It has also been a democracy light, with all the forms of democratic competition, but shorn of the unruly hubbub, and without the substance. Part of the Singapore exception is a system of one-party rule legitimized at the polls, and 56 years after Mr. Lee's People's Action Party, PAP, took power, facing little immediate threat of losing it. The system has many defenders at home and abroad. Singapore has very little crime and virtually no official corruption. It ranks towards the top on most human development indicators, such as life expectancy, infant mortality, and income per person. Its leaders hold themselves to high standards, but it is debatable whether the system Mr. Lee built can survive in its present form. Today, let's explore with my Wonder Channel to find the truth behind the glamour and magnificence of incredibly modern and expensive island nation in Singapore. Don't forget to hit the subscribe and like button to continue watching other interesting videos of my Wonder Channel in the near future. 1. A sense of complacency. The Economist believes that the biggest threat to Singapore is probably too complacent. That is, the firm belief that policies that have been successful for a long time will continue to help them compromise in the new world. This island nation is too small, with a population of only 5 million people with no resources, a heart without a body, Lee Kuan Yew himself said. This heart must strive to make the world its body, and that unthinkable thing Singapore has done. With recent unprecedented economic growth and investment momentum, a simple but huge danger is emerging: complacency with existing achievements. The danger is that complacency is appearing amid a series of emerging global risks and challenges. These include increasing financial pressure, risks from climate change, or the consequences of unbalanced development in the region. Those were the warnings given at the World Economic Forum on East Asia, held in Singapore, with the theme, "The Urgency of Leadership in the Asian Era," with the participation of more than 300 officials, Asian business leaders, and world media. Singapore's Deputy Finance Minister Tharman Shanmugaratnam warned that this is completely accurate because everyone knows what is coming. For nearly a decade, this area has risen from the ruins, so to speak. Not only that, countries in the region are continuing to prepare to stand shoulder to shoulder with other dynamic economies in the world in their efforts to integrate and follow the trend of globalization. Painful memories of the crisis are fading as quickly as the GDP growth of countries in this region. Nowadays, people hear more positive words there, often explosion, acceleration, breakthrough, and hot growth. According to delegates at the forum, if they become complacent and rest on their laurels, Asian countries could always face an economic crisis with unpredictable consequences. Singapore's Deputy Finance Minister, Mr. Tharman Shanmugaratnam, warned that, "We are in a situation where we lack a necessary self-regulation mechanism. We hope that one day the market will do the job. But if only the market makes the adjustment, economic chaos can occur." According to experts, Singapore has no time to be complacent. The country needs to be faster in the growing race for global investment. At the end of 2022, US President Joe Biden passed the law called Chips and Science, what he called a once-in-a-generation investment in America itself. The US move has partly motivated European and Asian governments to introduce similar policies to maintain their position in the chip manufacturing industry. Besides, such industrial policies born out of geopolitical and economic rivalry, combined with an ongoing overhaul of global corporate tax rules, are bad news for Singapore's small and open economy, policymakers here have warned. Over the past decades, Singapore has attracted a large number of multinational companies to to invest in 3 key areas including electronics, pharmaceuticals, and finance. However, competition for these investments is becoming fiercer as economic nationalism grows. While lip service is still paid to free trade and openness, protectionism is on the rise, said Grant Thornton Singapore's practice leader and head of tax David Sanderson. In his budget speech earlier this year, Deputy Prime Minister Lawrence Wong noted that as the US and other countries dole out huge subsidies to build up strategic industries, Singapore will not be able to outbid them. Singapore will have to adapt quickly to these changes to survive and prosper in a troubled world, he said. Experts believe that Singapore's well-established advantages, ranging from political and economic stability to developed infrastructure, will continue to give it an edge. But the country needs to be nimble in adapting its policies to ward off rising competition. While Singapore has other non-tax factors that already make it a compelling business hub location, it would still need to ensure that its incentive framework remains competitive, especially in areas such as innovation and ESG, said Mr. Andy Bike, partner and head of U.S. tax desk at KPMG in Singapore. Attracting multinational corporations to anchor their global or regional operations in Singapore can help to develop key industries and create jobs. They also generate spin-offs for local firms, which may start off as suppliers and subcontractors to these global firms before growing into industry leaders. In 2022, Singapore attracted a record $22.5 billion, used $17 billion in fixed asset investments, nearly doubling from the year before. In all, the projects secured are expected to create 17,913 new jobs when they are fully implemented in the next few years. Attributing the record investment haul to an exceptional inflow of large manufacturing projects in the first half of 2022, the Economic Development Board, EDB, has said that it does not expect the same level of investments this year, partly due to intensifying competition. 2. Meritocracy. Anyone growing up in Singapore has been instilled with the notion that meritocracy is the country's main principle of governance. Since independence in 1965, Singapore's motto has been, "Work hard and you will get ahead." Education and home ownership are considered the 2 most important factors of social mobility. One area that meritocracy is practiced is in Singapore's education system. In a meritocracy, everyone is allowed the opportunity to succeed based on the same tests, and the most talented are selected based on these non-discriminatory challenges. Singapore's education system spurs students from lower socioeconomic status groups to gain upward mobility, as it, in theory, provides equal opportunity by offering standardized testing. Education fees are affordable, with numerous grants provided for lower-income families, and rigorous standards enforced by the Ministry of Education on every school. However, a report by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, reveals that the playing field is not as level as we would like to think so. The report, titled Equity in Education: Breaking Down Barriers to Social Mobility, states that in 2015, 46% of disadvantaged students in Singapore were attending disadvantaged schools, up from 41% in 2009. Disadvantaged schools are defined as those which take in the bottom 25% of the student population, and poorer students in these schools face the disadvantage of not having access to the best resources. Academic competition is incredibly intense in Singapore, and as families do better financially, they can afford to invest in their children's talents through tuition or private coaching for extracurricular activities such as sports. While Singapore's social contract is anchored in personal and family responsibility, reflecting Confucian values in an ethnic Chinese-dominated society, the government will help those in need. Stories from rags to riches are very common in Singapore's history. Billionaire Goh Cheng Liang, 94 years old, one of the richest people in Singapore, started his business selling fishing nets and low-quality wall paint. Minister of Education Chan Chung Sing, one of the brightest candidates to succeed Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, was raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs to make ends meet. But for many Singaporeans, the ascent now seems slower. Meritocracy really worked when Singapore was still a developing country, said Nydia Ngio, director of strategic policy consulting firm Bauer Group Asia. But success stories are now rare, and the gap between rich and poor in society is growing wider. Education is becoming more accessible in Singapore, but at the same time there is deeper stratification. High-end schools are located in wealthy neighborhoods, and children who live in those neighborhoods or whose parents have attended those schools are given priority admission. The government's most prestigious scholarships, which guarantee a job after graduation, are often awarded to students from the best schools, despite the government's efforts to diversify the target audience. Received scholarships in recent years. As Education Minister Ong Ye Kung mentioned in a recent speech, the paradox of meritocracy lies in the fact that the more it works, the more it looks like systemic unfairness, as a growing upper middle class means that poorer Singaporeans see their opportunities diminished. Meanwhile, in 2015, 27 people between the ages of 10 and 19 committed suicide in this country, double the number from the previous year and the highest in more than a decade, according to Singapore's Samaritans. In May 2016, an 11-year-old boy jumped from the 17th floor of a building out of fear after sharing his exam results with his parents. It was the first time that child failed a subject. In contrast, in Finland, children do not go to school until they are 7 years old. Students have little or no homework, vacations are longer, there is only one major exam in the final year of high school, and the teach more, learn more culture is extremely strange. As a result, the country ranks 8th in the PISA rankings, and students develop into critical thinkers and problem solvers. Is it time for a change? The good news is that the Singapore Ministry of Education has decided to completely stop student streaming by 2024, a strong move to help children and parents partly escape the obsession with the current achievement race now. 3. Kiasu and burnout culture. One of the first words mentioned to describe Singaporean culture is Kiasu. Kiasu is derived from Hokkien, a local language in China, where Kia means fear and Su means defeat. Therefore, Kiasu can be literally translated as fear of losing. In 2007, Kiasu was added to the Oxford English Dictionary, where it is described as a stingy, selfish attitude. Kiasu is like the survival instinct of this island nation. The small country, only 53 years old, is located in the middle of Southeast Asia, surrounded by neighbors with different cultures than Singapore. It's always in the minds of Singaporeans. You have to be self-reliant, you have to aspire, you have to lead. The need to be a pioneer has always been part of social psychology. In practice, this means that Singaporeans hate missing out and love a bargain. They will line up endlessly for the latest phones, or just a limited edition Hello Kitty from McDonald's Happy Meal program. Singaporeans at buffets often stack their plates as high as possible. Coming to a food stall in this country, you will quickly become familiar with the Singlish word, a combination of English and the local Singaporean language, chop. Set aside some space while getting food by place something like a packet of tissue paper or an umbrella on the table. In recent years, Kiasuism has received criticism from many people, including politicians. Kwek Xiao Yin, a member of Singapore's parliament, criticized Kiasu for hindering business innovation, arguing that entrepreneurs influenced by Kiasu prioritize short-term goals over long-term goals. But the people of Singapore have no other choice. They cannot break out of this tradition because competition is their only resource. No fresh water, no food, no land. Only they can survive. Therefore, it seems that Kiasu is not simply the FOMO, fear of being left out, of the millennial generation. It is a deep sense that Singaporeans carry within themselves that only through ambition and the desire to be the best can they and their country thrive. Today, Singaporeans enjoy some of the highest living standards in Asia, but all of this has come at a price. It is also one of the most stressed out societies. There is a silent epidemic of depression and mental health hiding just under the surface as citizens struggle to balance work, life, family, and their own private aspirations and dreams. Making it can mean huge personal sacrifices. A new study published on Tuesday, Oct. 31, has found that stress levels in Singapore have increased steadily since 2021, with 87%, which 7% points more than the global average. Respondents were given 3 options on how they would rate their stress levels. Stressed but manageable, 71%. Stressed but not manageable, 16%. And not stressed at all, 13%. Gen Zers, those aged between 18 and 24, made up the highest proportion of those who felt stressed, 90%, among respondents across all age groups. According to the report, the percentage of Singaporeans who reported feeling stressed went up from 85% and 86% in 2021 and 2022, respectively. In comparison with the other Asian markets surveyed, the percentage of Singaporeans dealing with stress that was not manageable in 2023 was lower than Hong Kong, 19%, but twice as high as mainland China, 8%. Causes of financial stress. 3 in 5 Singaporeans cited the cost of living caused by global inflation as a reason they were feeling stressed. Similarly, almost 7 in 10 said that inflation had made it too expensive to stay healthy, 67%. 2 in 5 said their stress was caused by an uncertainty about the future, 41%, and their own personal finance, 40%. Causes of stress are related to the working environment. 3 out of 5 people said they want more support from their superiors to have a healthier life, 61%. 2 in 3 Singaporeans want flexible time off and flexible work arrangements as part of company health and well-being programs, 66%. 3 in 5 want their company to offer a private health insurance plan, 63%. And a third want more mental health support, 34%. Gym membership subsidies, a traditional form of health support from Singapore employers, were suggested by only a quarter of survey participants, 26%. Burnout culture is really strong in Singapore. Recent studies show that burnout culture in the city-state is at an all-time high, and much of that is due to the competitive work environment. There is also the stigma of seeking help for mental issues, which adds to the burden of depression and anxiety. Much of this begins from an early age, with expectations of having to outperform at school. Parents often add to the pressure from the education system by giving children tuition classes to increase their chances of getting into a good secondary school and university. It is a weight that continues through their lives, the demands of a society that typically has never rewarded the path less trodden. Singapore is not unusual in pressure cooker Asian societies. South Korea and Japan have comparable rates of stress. The Singapore dream, though, is heavily prescriptive. Anyone choosing a different route is seen as a bit of an anomaly.
The city is facing a silent epidemic that needs to be addressed, but many people are also reluctant to speak out about their mental health issues because of the stigma surrounding treatment. Admitting that you need help is considered a weakness in many Asian cultures, and Singapore is no exception, although thankfully this is changing among the younger generation. The government is trying to improve things by introducing more flexible work and encouraging employers to provide help for those who need it. Talking about mental health and the pressures of working life more openly would help.
Today's video ends here. Don't hesitate to leave a comment below to let me know if you liked this video. Please share the love and give it a thumb up, as well as hit the subscribe button so you never miss an update from us. Thanks for watching and see you soon. Bye-bye.